But today, I'm the greatest of all time. Thank you.
Never stop, I'll get it if I want it. Gotta make to myself a promise. I won't quit, keep going till I got it. I won't give up till I'm on top.
Yo, no, I ain't the type to give up. If I do something, man, I do it till I get what I want. I turn a business out of nothing into something I love. I got a poker face, but honestly, I'm not one to bluff. I flip a switch, never miss, man, I always stay up. Don't let them see you always have a plan to stay tough. This life ahead of you ain't easy, it was built to be rough. But that's what makes a personality, is tragedy, bruh. So keep your head on your shoulders. Now we ain't out here moving rocks, we out here moving boulders. Now we ain't getting posterized, we out here making posters. And we ain't got nothing to hide, we move forward like soldiers. You better wake up for the pay stub, or you'll pay up. Don't make love to the game, bruh, fuck the game up. Change up, rearrange stuff to your greatness. Same us for the way up, play the game, bruh.
Never stop, I'll get it if I want it. Gotta make to myself a promise. I won't quit, keep going till I got it. I won't give up till I'm on top, yeah.
You know I'm always honest, there ain't no way I'm ever stopping.
I won't quit, keep going till I got it. I won't give up till I'm on top,
I'm always flirting with pain, she like to hurt me and maim. I'm always working to change, but she's still lurking the same. I keep on building a dynasty while the haters be trying me, but they hate from inside.
All right, what's up, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Unscripted here on the Elite Sports and Entertainment Network. I'm your host and producer, Logan Landers, and join me to talk about Free Agent Frenzy Part 2. So much going on, we had to make a second part for this. As always, Stat Guy Dustin Reese. What's going on, Dustin?
Oh, I think this is going to go down as one of the more entertaining first waves of free agency in a long time. So we got that to look forward to.
Yeah, man, it's been crazy. We're gonna go through and I pulled up the NFL website. They've got all these names listed for who's going to which team. It's nice and neat. So we'll just kind of go through all those and see what teams have picked up who. I know for Jay's Cowboys, that'll be quick and easy. They've only got 2 people, I believe. But everyone else they've signed, it feels like 10 or so people. It's been a wild free agency, man. Trades happening, contracts, money being thrown around like crazy, but we're here to cover it, man. That's what we do. We're here to cover all of it and provide our insight. But if you guys enjoy this episode, give us a like, follow, share, and subscribe on the social media platforms, Facebook, X, TikTok. Hopefully it stays around for a little bit longer, YouTube, and on Twitch. And also go check us out on LinkedIn as well. You can connect with us on a professional level. And also, if you want to be a part of the network, that is a great way to do so. Just shoot us a DM, and we will be in contact with you. All right, so Dustin, as I mentioned, I've got the NFL website pulled up here. I figure the best way to just do this is just go team by team, just a quick look and see what we think. So Buffalo Bills up first. We're going to start with the AFC East. Obviously, they got Mitchell Trubisky, Deion Dawkins, David Edwards, AJ Epenesa, and DeQuan Jones, Nicholas Moreau, Cam Lewis, and Taylor Rapp. For Buffalo, I feel like it's been kind of a mixed bag. They've lost some guys, but they've also gained some as well. What are your thoughts?
I think Buffalo's going through what you would call is a mini rebuild, but not necessarily a full rebuild. I think they're going through like one of those competitive rebuild stages where when you look at it, the defense has gone through a complete overhaul. Basically, every player that was on that defense last year, minus Von Miller and obviously AJ Epenesa, who ended up re-signing with the team, has either been released or they've signed elsewhere. So the defense itself, I think, is what's going through the rebuild. While you got the offense, it's still going to have the same pieces.
Yeah, for sure. Buffalo, we'll see what happens with them. Heading over to Miami now, we've got Robert Jones being signed, Jonnu Smith, Aaron Brewer, Neville Gallimore, Shaq Barrett, Jordan Brooks, Anthony Walker, Nick Needham, Jordan Poyer, and Saron Neal. I mentioned Jordan Poyer, who came from Buffalo and is now going to be facing them as a division rival now.
Yep.
And so what do you think about Miami, what they've done this year so far?
I'm honestly surprised they haven't done more. When you look at the main reason why that team lost the division last year, it was because their defense. Their defense let them down late in the season. Their defense was inconsistent most of the year, but towards the end of the year, they played a lot better. But then they had the injuries, and they were never able to recover. So I thought they would invest a lot more on defense, especially after losing Christian Wilkins. but they haven't really done that. And plus, they also lost their defensive coordinator, Vic Fangio. So, I mean, they're kind of in a similar spot to Buffalo, in my opinion, where their offense is fine. It's the defense where they're going to have a lot of question marks.
Yeah, and speaking of a team who's done a pretty good, they've had a lot of moves this offseason so far. Frankie the Yankees team, or Foxborough Frankie. They've got Jacoby Brissett, Nathan Rourke, Antonio Gibson, Kendrick Bourne, Jalen Reagor, Hunter Henry, Austin Hooper, Tyron Wheatley, Chikuma Okofor, Mike Onowu, Anthony Jennings, Josh Uchi, Christian Ellis, Sion Takiti, and Kyle Duggar. That seems like all that the Patriots have picked up. Dustin, that's a lot of moves that's a lot of people they've signed. Obviously, we know with Mac Jones being traded to Jacksonville now that the Patriots are going to have pretty much a brand new team. We saw they got rid of Devontae Parker, just two of the main pieces that were on offense the past year or two. They're now gone. So New England really seems like, obviously with Jerry Mayo being the new head coach and whatnot, that they're really trying to retool and at least take a step forward this upcoming year. What do you think?
Yeah, I think they're trying to retool this team, like you said. I think they're trying to more so build it how Gerard Mayo wants it built. You look at obviously releasing some of the players they released, but then they also added Austin Hooper and Hunter Henry back as the tight end position. So that kind of gives me the impression that New England's going to go back to the double tight end set that they used to run when they had Aaron Hernandez and Rob Gronkowski. And if that's the case, then whoever they bring in for a rookie quarterback, I think is going to be in a very good spot because obviously Jacoby Brissett's not a long-term answer. Bailey Zappe's not a long-term answer. They're picking number 3 at this point, so I'm willing to bet they take a quarterback at number 3 and kind of use what Gerard Mayo's bringing in, as well as probably retooling some more positions in the draft.
Yeah, and then let's keep going over to New York now with the Jets. They have not made a whole lot of moves. They signed Tyrod Taylor to a 2-year deal for $18 million. Morgan Moses, John Simpson, Isaiah Oliver, Greg the Leg Zerline, and Thomas Morstead. Not a whole lot of moves, honestly. They've made a few, but I mean, I don't know, man. New York is a weird spot right now.
Yeah, they are. And I think a lot of this has to do with what happened last year. They went all in to get Aaron Rodgers last year. And you saw what happened. The guy played 4 plays and he was done for the year. They're now in a position where they can't really go all in this year because they went all in to get him last year.
Yeah.
So now it's like, what do we do to at least try to be competitive? They're hoping Aaron Rodgers comes back to 100%, which we don't know if he will, but they're hoping he does. So we will see if any of that happens. But yeah, the Jets are kind of – the AFC East is weird because you have the teams in Buffalo and Miami who are head and shoulders better than the rest, but neither one of them has a defense right now. And then you have the Jets who have a good defense, but we don't know what that offense is going to look like. And if that offense plays the way a lot of people expect it to, the Jets are going to be right up there with those other 2 teams for that division.
Yeah, it's interesting right now in the AFC East. That is for sure. Let's go out north, though, man. AFC North, they've been making some moves. Let's start off in Baltimore. They've got Derrick Henry, of course, the big acquisition. Nelson Aguilar. Also got Brent Urban, Malik Harris, and, of course, we all know who they re-signed, defensive lineman Justin Mabuke, 4-year, $98 million. So Baltimore haven't made a whole lot of moves per se. They've just kind of – obviously, they've upped their run game with picking up Henry. And then they've bolstered their defensive line for a few more years to come. Do you see Baltimore maybe going after anyone else, or do you think they're kind of just going to stay put with the core they have?
I do think they're going to bring back Odell Beckham. He was a very valuable piece to that offense last year, even if the numbers don't always show that. I think his veteran presence was a big get for that offense, so I do think they bring him back for sure. But then you also have to look at the possibility of J.K. Dobbins. Because J.K. Dobbins is a free agent.
That's true.
And they lost Gus Edwards, and then obviously not having Keaton Mitchell the first half of the year because he tore his ACL in Week 14. Outside of Derrick Henry, they don't have another running back right now, so I'm not going to be shocked to see J.K. Dobbins come back and Baltimore roll with Dobbins and Henry next year.
Yeah, and let's go to Cincinnati, a team who has bolstered their team a lot. They've picked up a good bit of people. Zach Moss, T. Higgins, Mike Gesicki, Drew Sample, Cody Ford, Sheldon Rankins, Akeem Davis, Gaither, Von Bell, and finally Geno Stone. Look, man, Cincinnati's a team who was in the Super Bowl a couple years ago. Obviously, injuries derailed them last year with Joe Burrow and company. But they're hoping that, with a healthy line or with a healthy team, they can maybe get back to prominence. What do you think Cincinnati's been up to? Do you like their moves?
I don't, honestly. Losing Joe Mixon is the move that I
trading him off for Zach Moss, pretty much.
Yeah, I think that's going to be the move that is ultimately their biggest downfall, mainly because T. Higgins wants to be traded.
Yeah,
and I don't see T. Higgins being a Bengal when the season starts. I do think Cincinnati trades him. I do think they get something for him, but I don't think they trade him soon enough to use it in this year's drafts. But losing T. Higgins or losing Joe Mixon and then possibly losing T. Higgins, it's pretty much going to be just Jamar Chase on that offense, and teams are going to be able to focus on him at that point.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what the Bengals can do. Lot of questions around them as well. Heading to Cleveland now, a team who surprised a good bit of people last year with how well they played in the playoffs and whatnot. They've made a few moves, but not, I would say, anything too crazy. They picked up Jameis Winston on a 1-year deal. Jerry Jeudy they traded with Denver. They also have picked up Adam Trautman, Michael Dunn, Zadarius Smith on the edge there, and finally linebacker Jordan Hicks for a 1-year deal. Do you think that Cleveland is going to pretty much stay put with the core they've got, or do you think they make a splash with anyone else potentially?
I think they stay put because if Nick Chubb comes back healthy, you're going to have Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt in the backfield, which is going to be a great running back combo. You added Jerry Jeudy to be paired with Amari Cooper, so for the first time since Amari Cooper's gotten to Cleveland, he's going to have a very reliable number 2. They still have Elijah Moore. They still have a good tight end there. And then they brought in Jameis Winston, who I'm still salty that Minnesota did not pick up Jameis Winston, especially for the price that Cleveland paid for him. But I'm still questioning why Cleveland didn't bring Joe Flacco back. Because I thought Joe Flacco would not only be back in Cleveland, but I would have let him start over Deshaun Watson when you look at how the Browns played under Flacco compared to under Watson last year. But at least Cleveland's still in a position where if things don't work out with Watson this year, or if Watson does struggle today or this year, Winston is a very reliable backup that you can throw in there. And you're not going to have to change your offense too much because he's a very similar quarterback to Deshaun Watson, just makes a little bit more mistakes.
So we got a comment here from Rob Scott just basically saying, can you trust Deshaun and Jameis? In terms of a locker room dynamic, I don't know. It's going to be interesting. Deshaun has not lived up to his contract, that's for sure. Jameis is a guy who's super interesting, honestly, if you look at his career. He went from starter to bench player to occasional fill-in starter, and he got ups and downs and all arounds. But it's interesting. I'll give that, Rob. I
mean, I don't necessarily don't trust either one of them. I think it's more so if Nick Chubb is back, I would trust them more because they're not going to be shoulder help there.
For sure. All right, and then let's round out the AFC North here. Pittsburgh Steelers, obviously we know they're big pickups. 2 of them are obviously Russell Wilson, who's going to be their new quarterback heading into the season, and Patrick Queen, who they were able to steal away from Baltimore. They also have picked up Dante Jackson from the Carolina Panthers, and they have re-signed Christian Kuntz as their long snapper. So obviously there's 2 big moves there, Dustin. Do you think this kind of takes Pittsburgh out of the mediocrity that we've seen in terms of their record-wise over the last couple of seasons and gets them maybe a little bit higher up in standings and whatnot?
It did for about 24 hours until they traded away Deontay Johnson.
Yeah. Well, they traded him to Carolina for Dante Jackson.
Well, yeah, because now you have George Pickens, and that's pretty much it because Russell Wilson doesn't utilize the tight ends. So Pat Freiermuth, who was a very reliable red zone target the last couple of years, is not going to be targeted nearly as much as he was with other quarterbacks that he will with Russell Wilson. And now you hear those rumors coming out that the Patriots and several other teams are looking at Kenny Pickett. Who's to say that Kenny Pickett's not traded from this team yet?
That's a good point. We'll see what happens out there at Pittsburgh, but it will be interesting for sure. All right, heading over to the AFC South. Houston Texans, my God, they have signed some people. Joe Mixon, Dalton Schultz, Nico Autry, Daniil Hunter, Aziz Al-Shire, Mike Ford, Lonnie Johnson, Desmond King II, Jeff Okuda, Eric Murray, and Kyle Fairbairn. Look, man, I think that they are going for it. Talk about a quick rebuild, am I right?
Yeah, and if there is a team that's going to dethrone the Kansas City Chiefs next year, Houston Texans are going to be the team to do it.
They have that potential, man. It kind of feels like, in a sense, they're kind of building up like a Chiefs light. You know what I mean?
Yep.
With the system they've got in place.
Because, I mean, you got C.J. Stroud, who just was a lot better than I think anyone expected him to be as a rookie.
Year 1, 2, yeah.
I mean, Devin Singletary and Damian Pierce was an okay running back combo last year.
Now they've upgraded.
Had Joe Mixon. So, I mean, Joe Mixon's miles better than both of them. You still got Nico Collins. You still got Tank Dell. You still got Dalton Schultz. I mean, your wide receiver room is stacked. Your defense already was stacked. And just because you lost, they lost their leading sack leader from last year to Minnesota, but they bring in the guy who was third in the NFL in sacks, and Daniil Hunter, so that's basically a horse for a horse swap. Jeff Okuda, one of the better cornerbacks in the game, is going to that secondary, and we've seen what DeMeco Ryans has already done with that secondary. Houston, to me, is going to be a top 2 seed in the AFC next year, and like I said, if there's a team that can dethrone the Chiefs, I think Houston's a team that's going to do it next year.
We will see what happens. Let's go over to the AFC South with the Indianapolis Colts. Joe Flacco is going over there, continuing his career. Michael Pittman is staying put in Indianapolis. They've also got Tyquan Lewis, Gennard Avery, Grover Stewart, Zaire Franklin, Kenny Moore II, and Rigoberto Sanchez rounding out their special teams unit. I think, honestly, Indianapolis hasn't done a bad job. I mean, would you say it's going to be a competition between Anthony Richardson and Joe Flacco as good as Flacco played last year?
I don't. I think with how much the Colts kind of went all in for Anthony Richardson, they basically gave Richardson the job before even training camp started last year. I think Joe Flacco's more so being brought in for the veteran leadership, the playoff leadership, because the Colts were only one game from making the playoffs last year. And they do want a reliable veteran in case Richardson gets hurt again, because knowing the style of play that Richardson has, he does have that risk for injury again. So having Joe Flacco there, a guy that you know that you can count on if you plug him in, is very good for Indianapolis. I just don't think they have enough pieces around the rest of that team to really make a run at the division.
Okay, I got you. We'll see what happens. Obviously, there's still a few people out there, and also with the draft, a lot of things can change here. Jacksonville, the Jaguars, they've got Mac Jones, they've got Dearness Johnson, Gabe Davis, Devin Duvernay, Blake Hance, Ezra Cleveland, Mitch Morse, Josh Allen, the edge rusher, Ronald Darby, and Darnell Savage. What do you think of Jacksonville? I've seen a lot of people say good, bad, kind of in the middle. Where would you put?
I mean, when you look at the collapse they had last year, I thought they were going to make a lot more moves, just because they had to figure out something with that collapse that they have. Getting Gabe Davis is huge for the wide receiver room, because now you have Christian Kirk, who's going to be kind of your do-everything receiver like he always has been. But Gabe Davis is going to be that over-the-top guy that Jacksonville's been lacking the last couple of years, which will give Trevor Lawrence another target to throw to. Josh Allen, retaining him is a huge acquisition for that defense. But outside of that, I mean, when you go position by position, is Travis Etienne a better running back than Joe Mixon? No, he's not. Is Christian Kirk better than Tank Dell? No, probably not. Is he better than Nico Collins? Yes. But is Gabe Davis better than either Nico Collins or Tank Dell? Nope. And tight end by tight end, Evan Ingram and Dalton Schultz are maybe a horse apiece. But when you look at that defense, Houston's got a much better defense than Jacksonville. So unless Jacksonville starts making some more moves, they're going to be sitting in that second or third position looking up at Houston just because of the amount of moves Houston's already made.
All right, I like it. Let's keep it moving, man. Let's go to a team who's made a lot of moves, a lot of big moves in the last day or so. That's Tennessee Titans. Mason Rudolph, Tony Pollard, Calvin Ridley, Nick Westbrook, Anike, Lloyd Cushenberry, Kenneth Murray, Chidobe Awuzie, Nick Folk, and Morgan Cox. Tennessee, do you trust them now, or do you still think they need to hold a fill with quarterback? Do you think Will Levis and or I guess Mason Rudolph now can get it done?
I mean, Brian Callahan is now the head coach in Tennessee, and if you look at what they've done so far, I think Brian Callahan is trying to recreate the Cincinnati offense. I mean, you bring in Tony Pollard, who's basically kind of what Joe Mixon was. You have Traylon Burks, who's supposed to be their version of Jamar Chase. You just brought in Calvin Ridley, who's supposed to be their version of T. Higgins, and then you got, I believe, Robert Woods there, who would be Tyler Boyd.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the thing about Levis, we don't know what Levis is, so I can't say if he's going to be the answer for the future or not. I believe that is Ryan Tannehill still there, or is he a free agent?
Oh, let me do a quick search real quick.
So if Ryan Tannehill's still a free agent, I'm almost shocked that Tennessee has not brought him back. I think he's got.
Yes, he is a free agent.
So yeah, I'm surprised Tennessee has not brought him back, even if it's just to mentor a guy like Will Levis. So that might be something to watch for as free agency goes on. But I'm more so mad at Tennessee for signing Calvin Ridley at this point. Not because I don't think he's a good fit, because the amount of money that Calvin Ridley just got means that the price on Justin Jefferson just went up by a whole lot more money, and that does not make me happy.
Yeah, it's we'll get to your team in just a minute. We'll get to the Vikings soon, and see what they've done. But yeah, I think Tennessee definitely made a splash. All right, out west now, Denver Broncos. They've got Michael Burton, Lil Jordan Humphrey, Malcolm Roach, Brandon Jones, PJ Locke, and Will Lutz. Look, brother, I'm keeping it short. This team ain't going to do much this next year. They ain't looking hot.
Nope. At this point, I think right now they're just focusing on drafting a quarterback in round one.
Yep,
putting him with Sean Payton and seeing if Sean Payton can do what he did with Drew Brees, just not at the same level. So a team that's also going to be in salary cap hell the next 3 years because of the amount of money they still got to pay Russell Wilson. It's going to be a rough time in Denver the next few years.
Yeah, it's going to be rough. Broncos country. Let's ride. Let's go to the champs now. Kansas City. Irv Smith, Chris Jones, Drew Tranquill, L'Jarius Sneed, Deion Bush, Matt Ariza coming back to the league as well. I didn't expect Kansas City to make a whole lot of moves. You're champs. Just keep as much as you can together, I feel.
Yeah, I mean, retaining Chris Jones for another 5 years is huge for that defense. And again, Patrick Mahomes decides to take a pay cut just because he wants to be like Tom Brady, where he can take a pay cut and bring in other pieces. Irv Smith Jr. as a backup tight end is going to be an interesting asset to that team because obviously Travis Kelce is the go-to tight end. Then you have guys like Noah Gray behind him, who is more your possession wide receiver. Irv Smith Jr. has got a little bit more speed. So it might be kind of interesting to see how they use Irv Smith Jr. I do think Kansas City adds another wide receiver yet, kind of like what Rob just said in the comments. I thought Kansas City would go after Calvin Ridley. I know they were linked to Darnell Mooney before he signed with Atlanta, which we'll talk about in a little bit. If I had to guess, I think Hollywood Brown would be the one that goes to Kansas City. More so to replace Valdez-Scantling because they're very similar. Valdez-Scantling was more that deep ball, take it off the top receiver. Hollywood Brown is the same way, but he's also a guy that can play in the slot because of his size. So, I mean, you pair Rashee Rice with Hollywood Brown, that's a very good 1-2 punch. You still have Kelce. You brought in Irv Smith Jr. You know damn well that offense is going to be better this year than it was last year. So I really don't think Kansas City is going to be needing to do too much more.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. Heading out to Vegas now. Gardner Minshew starting over there. We got Amir Abdullah, Andre James, and Christian Wilkins, their big pickup. I think if the Raiders are going to do anything, it's going to be on defense. Because they've lost Josh Jacobs, who we'll talk about in a little bit, obviously. And Gardner Minshew, solid, but he's not a franchise quarterback. And Aiden O'Connell was hit and miss very much so. So they're going to be very much a defensive-heavy team. Obviously now with Max Crosby and now picking up Wilkins. That's going to be a scary line, man. I think it's going to be pretty scary for opposing O-lines and quarterbacks.
Well, do you think the Raiders start Aiden O'Connell, or do you think they start Minshew?
I think they might go more towards Minshew, only because they signed him to a 2-year deal for $25 million.
Or do you think they trade for Justin Fields, or do you think they draft a quarterback?
A trade for Justin Fields would be tremendous, but I think of the two, I would have Minshew start the season, see how he does. If things go well, keep him. If not, then you got Aiden, who played, pretty much all of last year. But I mean, we'll see. And obviously, we know that the draft is coming up, so we really don't know how a lot of these teams are going to go. But Gardner Minshew is for now the starter out there in Las Vegas. Los Angeles, the Chargers, they ain't done much, man. Gus Edwards, Will Dissly, and Aloha Gillum. I mean, look, man. I expected more from this team who just got a brand new coach and a lot of people said they were going to try and get the division. What are they doing?
I mean, Gus Edwards is to replace Austin Eckler, but
Correct.
he's not anywhere close to Austin Eckler, so I don't really see the fit there. You just released Mike Williams to granted he's been injury prone, so I can understand it.
Yeah.
But who's going to be your replacement for Mike Williams? You just opened up $20 million in cap space by cutting Mike Williams. So what are your plans with that extra $20 million at this point? They're rumored to draft Brock Bowers, which would be huge because they lost Gerald Everett. So adding Brock Bowers would be a very nice pickup for that team. But then again, they also need offensive line. So they could trade back in the first round to get offensive line. I really don't know what the Chargers' plan is right now. Obviously, having Jim Harbaugh, you always have a chance to win because everywhere he's gone, he's won. But this could be the first time in his coaching career where he doesn't win in year one, just because of the kind of situation the Chargers are in right now.
Yeah, that's fair. All right, that rounds out the AFC. Let's head on over to the NFC. Really quick comments here. What do you think of the Cowboys picking up a whole whopping 2 players, long snapper Trent Sieg and linebacker Eric Kendricks?
The Eric Kendricks move makes a ton of sense just because he has 7 years of experience with Mike Zimmer. And with Mike Zimmer, the new defensive coordinator in Dallas, he's going to try to not necessarily bring back former players, but more so bring back players that know his system. And obviously playing 9 years in Minnesota with 7 of those years with Mike Zimmer, Eric Kendricks knows that Zimmer system better than anybody. So I think not only is he a good veteran presence, but he's going to be great on that defense. But you have to look at this Dallas roster. Outside of the running back position where it is rumored that they are expected to sign A.J. Dillon, what more does this team need to do? Like, they have the receivers in C.D. Lamb. They have a good tight end in Ferguson. They have one of the best offensive lines in football. You saw how good that defense was last year, and obviously you have a quarterback in Dak Prescott. There's really not much this team can do to get over the hump. It's more so, how do they get over the hump in the playoffs?
And just remember, they're all in, Dustin. They're all in.
We're always all in.
I know. All right, New York with the Giants. Drew Lock, Devin Singletary, Isaiah McKenzie, Jermaine Elamir, John Runyon, Brian Burns. Big one there. New York, they were expected to do a lot, last year. Daniel Jones got that big bag, and it didn't work. Trying to,
it worked because it forced Saquon Barkley out, and then they just used the money they were going to give Barkley to get Brian Burns.
Yeah, but so how do you think New York does this year, though, with the additions they've made so far?
I mean, Devin Singletary for Saquon is a downgrade.
I mean, yeah, of course.
Saquon was that offense. So unless they expect Singletary to be that offense, I don't know what they're expecting. To me, the most curious pick of them all is Drew Lock. Do they let Drew Lock battle for that starting spot with Daniel Jones in camp? Drew Lock was a first-round talent 5 years ago, and he's made 12 or 13 career starts, and the overall record might not be great, but the numbers weren't terrible. I think you could see Drew Lock possibly overtake that starting job from Daniel Jones this year.
And my God, that's a lot of money sitting on the bench. We will see. All right, Philadelphia. My God, where do we even start? Obviously, Saquon Barkley, Devontae Parker. They've also picked up tight end Albert Aquabuyan, Landon Dickerson coming back, buying that lawnmower that he wants. Brandon Graham, Bryce Huff, Zach Bond, Julian Okora, C.J. Gardner-Johnson, Jake Elliott, Braden Mann, and Rick Lovato. A lot of people, man, are saying that Philadelphia is one free agency. Are you in that camp?
I mean, I said this on Coast to Coast yesterday. And a lot of people think Philadelphia is the team to beat in the NFC East. And when you look at the acquisitions they made, especially Saquon Barkley, which is going to be freaking tremendous with Jalen Hurts.
Good Lord, you're not kidding.
Devontae Parker is going to be one of the best number 3 receivers in the NFL because he's going to be sitting behind Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown because, in my opinion, Devontae Parker was always a number 2 or a number 3. He was never a number 1, and when he got drafted by the Dolphins, he was forced to be a number 1. Then he went to New England and he was forced to be a number one. So for the first time in his career, he's going to actually be in that role that fits him perfectly. The defense already had so much talent, but now you're adding Bryce Huff, who's one of the more underrated pass rushers in the NFL. CJ Gardner-Johnson has spent time in Philadelphia in the past, so he's just going back to where he's had some good years. Vic Fangio is now the defensive coordinator, one of the best defensive coordinators in the NFL, so I don't expect that defense to go through kind of those slumps that they did last year. But the reason why I am not picking Philadelphia to win the NFC East is Kellen Moore. Kellen Moore was brought in as the offensive coordinator. You've seen how Dallas's offense has looked without Kellen Moore. You saw how Justin Herbert looked without Kellen Moore and how the Chargers looked once Kellen Moore got to Los Angeles. I think Kellen Moore is going to hold this team back. But the one thing they do have going for them, for the first time in Saquon Barkley's career, he's not going to have to be the focal point of the offense. He's going to have other running backs that can spell him. He's going to have other players that can spell him and kind of let him be more physically fit for the end of the season. I think that alone is going to be a tough matchup for anybody come December.
Yeah, we'll see what happens, man. Obviously, they're a team who's done a lot, and it's going to be interesting to see. Let's head to a team who, and just, do you think they're heading in the right direction with these moves? Washington, they've got Marcus Mariota, Austin Eckler, Zach Ertz, Nick Allegretti, Tyler Beyonce, Dorrance Thomas, Cleveland Farrell, Frankie Louvu, Bobby Wagner, Jeremy Chin, Brandon McManus, and Tyler Ott. Do you think that Washington's trying to step up, or do you think maybe it's a little too late for a lot of these guys who are a little bit older?
I mean, the Jeremy Chin and Bobby Wagner pickups I like a lot. I know Bobby Wagner is older, but he did lead the NFL in tackles last year. And I think that is kind of the quarterback that Dan Quinn wants on his defense. Clelin Ferrell is another guy that was a first-round pick at one point, and just for whatever reason, he never panned out the way anyone expected him to. So I think a change of scenery is good for him. Offensively, I like the Zach Ertz pickup in tight end. I think that'll be a very good addition to the offense because now you have Logan Thomas and Zach Ertz as your tight ends to pair with Terry McLaurin. And then you look at Austin Eckler going to running back. It's going to be interesting to see how he does with a new team because he was never really the focal point with the Chargers because obviously Justin Herbert, Keenan Allen, and those receivers were the focal point. You can make a case that he's going to be the focal point now in Washington, so it'll be interesting to see what they do there. I'm just more curious about the quarterback. You have Sam Howell and Marcus Mariota, and chances are they're going to be drafting Drake May or Jaden Daniels with their second pick. So who's going to be the backup? Is it going to be Sam Howell and Marcus Mariota competing for the backup at this point? Or are they going to use Sam Howell as trade bait?
It remains to be seen, my friend. All right, heading out to Chicago now with the North. They got Brett Ripon, DeAndre Swift, Ryan Bates, Matt Pryor, Gerald Everett, Amin Ogbunnia. They got Jalen Johnson, Kevin Byard, Jonathan Owens, and Patrick Scales.
Can we stop for 1 second because of something that Frankie just sent us? I got the message too. I was going to read it when we were done, but because we just talked about Philadelphia, I think it can relate.
Oh, of course. Go right ahead.
The NFL is investigating the Philadelphia Eagles and the Atlanta Falcons. They are looking into tampering related to Saquon Barkley and Kirk Cousins.
Well, look, let's be honest here. A lot of these got signed like the minute free agency opened. Didn't we see like 30 moves get made?
Well, no, I mean, the Saquon one I don't think is going to happen. Just because you never really heard too many conversations about Saquon up except for Monday. The Kirk Cousins one, I think, is going to be the one that gets opened a lot because how long have we been hearing the whole "where is Cousins going to play" debate?
Quite some
time. But for whatever reason, it's been the last 2 or 3 weeks where it seems like Atlanta was talking to him already. And you're not technically supposed to be talking to anybody until Monday. So it does seem like Atlanta may have been talking to Kirk Cousins for the last few weeks trying to get him to go there. And if that's the case,
if there are consequences, I don't think the deal is going to be void.
I don't think the deal is going to be void, but it's going to cost them draft.
It's going to cost them draft picks and or money if it does come out that's what happened. But I mean, we've seen this before. The main thing though is that the players are staying put. They've already signed those contracts as of yesterday.
Yeah.
So it's not like the players are like back in free agency. It's just all right, you lose some money in it, some draft picks. You typically like 5 years from now, it feels like. So we'll see what happens. But back on track here, man. Did you give your thoughts on Chicago and what they've done, or are they doing anything for you?
I mean, I like the DeAndre Swift pickup.
DeAndre Swift and a bunch of other guys. It feels like.
I mean, essentially gives them what David Montgomery gave them a couple of years ago, so you knew they kind of needed to upgrade there. Kevin Byard,
defense, yeah.
Yeah, Kevin Byard going to replace Eddie Jackson. I like. He's a cheaper version of Eddie Jackson.
Yep.
Yes, he's a little bit older, but he's played a lot better than what Eddie Jackson's played the last couple of years.
You're not wrong.
Yeah. Outside of that, they really haven't added too much. They added Jonathan Owens as a depth piece. They added 2 offensive linemen as a depth piece. They added a linebacker and a special teamer yesterday as a depth piece. What I'm more surprised is this team is in desperate need of a wide receiver.
Oh, you're not kidding.
I know a lot of people expect him to draft a wide receiver at number 9, but what happens if Harrison Odunze and Malik Neighbors are gone at number 9? Then what's your plan? And I thought they were going to go after Ridley. Seeing what Ridley signed for, that kind of takes Ridley out of their kind of price range at that point. So right now I'm looking at one option. I'm looking at the Bears trading for T. Higgins right now. Because if they don't trade for T. Higgins, your wide receiver room is literally going to be DJ Moore, Tyler Scott, Velus Jones, because you don't know how that draft is going to unfold for you.
Yeah, we will definitely see what happens, man. But let's keep it going here. Let's go out to Detroit. Graham Glasgow, Marcus Davenport, Jalen Reeves-Maybin, Carlton Davis, Emmanuel Mosley, Amik Robertson, and Michael Badgley. They've been going pretty heavy defense in this free agency trend. Do you like it, or you think they need to go over to the offense a little bit more?
They needed to upgrade the defense. The offense is fine. Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jared Goff, Sam Laporta, Josh Reynolds, Jameson Williams. Their offense is fine. The defense is what needed work. You knew Gardner Johnson was going to be gone because he only played 2 or 3 games last year and got hurt. Obviously, having Aiden Hutchinson up front, that's huge. The front 4 of that defense is fine. It's the linebackers and the secondary that need a lot of work. But to their credit, they made it work last year and got to the NFC Championship game. So, any additions at this point, I think, is just going to be icing on the cake because a lot of that team is the same as last year.
All right, I got you, brother. Let's keep it moving to Green Bay. Josh Jacobs, Tyler Davis, Corey Ballantyne, Keason Nix, and Xavier McKinney. Couple moves, and obviously Josh Jacobs over Aaron Jones is what they're going to be rolling with now. How do you like Green Bay's chances as of now?
Xavier McKinney pickup is massive, especially for that secondary that needed basically a lockdown safety, so that is massive. Losing Devondre Campbell in the linebacker room will be a kind of a big blow, and a lot of people don't realize how important he was to that defense. But getting Josh Jacobs is huge. And prior to releasing Aaron Jones, I actually said the Packers were the team to beat in the NFC because of that move. Because essentially you could have Aaron Jones and Josh Jacobs on the field at the same time, kind of doing what Montgomery and Gibbs did in Detroit. Now that you lost Aaron Jones, yes, Jacobs could be considered an upgrade to a point because he's 4 years younger, but Aaron Jones was the engine that made that Packers offense go. Because if you look at when Aaron Jones was hurt, that's when the Packers lost 5 straight games. The moment that Aaron Jones came back, the Packers won 7-1 down the stretch. So at what point do you kind of say, is it really an upgrade, or are we just upgrading because we know Josh Jacobs is 4 years younger and has more tread left on the tires?
Right. Yeah. That's a good point. Let's talk about your team though. Minnesota Vikings. You mentioned Aaron Jones. That's where he's at.
Yeah. Love
Sam Darnold. Brandon Powell,
hate it.
Johnny Munt. If you just give your quick reactions here. Let's see. David Quisenberry, Jonathan Greenard, Andrew Van Ginkel, Jonathan Bullard, Blake Cashman, and John Parker Romo. Overall, what would you give your team?
I love what we've done on the defensive side. Obviously, Greenard is basically just here to replace Danielle Hunter. The same exact type of player Danielle Hunter is, just, again, 3-4 years younger. So obviously you knew that was going to happen. Andrew Van Ginkel and Blake Cashman, 2 great linebacker pickups. Keeping Harrison Smith on the team as he took another pay cut was great for the team. Bullard is a good veteran rotational piece on defense. Aaron Jones, I love it. I love pairing Aaron Jones with Ty Chandler.
Yeah.
Why the hell are we paying Sam Darnold $10 million?
Yeah, that one.
Why
That
is-
was still
what?
a head scratcher.
Like,
I don't get it either.
Minshew signed for $11 million for 2 years, basically, because he's a 2-year deal.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Jameis Winston signed for $8 million to be a backup. Joe Flacco signed for $8 million to be a backup. If I'm paying $10 million to somebody, I'm giving it to Flacco or Jameis Winston before I'm giving it to damn Sam Darnold. And guess what? The Raiders released Jimmy Garoppolo. Could you not have waited another day and just brought Jimmy Garoppolo in?
Yeah.
I really don't get the Sam Darnold pickup because for $10 million, I can start Nick Mullins for $3 million, and he's going to give me the same results that Sam Darnold is going to give me.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. But we'll see, man. We'll see. But yeah, that Sam Darnold pickup is still.
I don't mind the pickup. It's the cost.
Right. It's the money. It's the money. All right. Speaking of money, Kirk Cousins, as we just mentioned a minute ago, going to the Falcons, as well as Kadero Hodge, Darnell Mooney, Charlie Warner, Liam McCullough, and I just saw they announced that they have re-signed offensive lineman Storm Norton on that O line in Atlanta. Honestly, watching the team being 10 minutes from their training camp, their offense, they've got all the pieces. Now it's time to figure out, okay, was it the coaching staff or was it the quarterback play or a combo of both last year to why they couldn't get it cooking? As for defense, they've got a decent defense. They got a pretty solid defense with Terrell, of course. We all know Jesse Bates had a really good year. D-line, linebacking core, not too shabby at all. I think Atlanta's made a couple moves, but I think they've all made sense, and they've picked up pieces that they've needed.
Kirk Cousins should just go in the Hall of Fame for having the best agent.
Hey, Hall of Fame for that agent. That's for sure.
But the addition of Kirk Cousins makes Atlanta the favorites in the NFC South by a long shot.
Right.
Bijan Robinson, Tyler Algier, Kyle Pitts, Drake London. Now they brought in Darnell Mooney. They have plenty of pieces.
It's looking good.
They had the pieces last year. They just were stuck with Desmond Ridder and Tyler Heineke.
Oh, brother. I don't even know. Let's go with Carolina now, as you just mentioned, the team who was god-awful last year. Bryce Young barely survived, and they have made some additions to try and keep him upright. They signed Robert Hunt, Damian Lewis, offensive guards to big money contracts. Deontay Johnson, who they picked up, Sean Robinson, Josie Jewell, Troy Hill, and Dane Jackson, as well as J.J. Jansen. I don't think Carolina's going to shock the world or nothing, but I'm glad that they're investing in their O-line.
Yeah, they're investing in their O-line to keep him up. Adding Deontay Johnson is another person he can at least throw to.
Yep.
But he doesn't have a running back right now. Chuba Hubbard's a free agent, and he's probably going to sign somewhere. Miles Sanders, he still has, but Miles Sanders isn't the Miles Sanders from Philadelphia anymore. Nah. So, if you're going to make Bryce Young be one-dimensional, it ain't going to go too well.
Good luck with that. Good Lord. All right, a team who hasn't made a whole lot of moves, and that's because they've been in salary cap hell, as we like to call it here on the program, and that's the New Orleans Saints. Demario Davis, Willie Gay Jr., and the Honey Badger, Tyrann Mathieu. All of those guys have just restructured their deals and whatnot. That's pretty much all they've done. New Orleans have, seemingly lost more players than gained. Like I said, the money issues are the reason why, and you see all these players restructuring contracts, so I don't expect them to do much.
No, I think the Saints are going to just kind of be in the same
where they were last year.
I think they'll be kind of where Denver is this year. I think the Saints are going to go through like another 500-ish season.
Yeah.
And then they're going to just have to start unloading pieces because they're not going to have any money to get anybody.
Yeah, and then let's go to the team who won the South last year. And I say won because it's not like they ran away with it by any means necessary. That's Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Obviously, they gave Baker Mayfield his big payday. Well earned. They've also got Chase Edmonds. They signed up Mike Evans back, Craig Gaines, Levante David's coming back, Jordan Whitehead's coming over, Antoine Whitfield Jr., and Chase McLaughlin. Overall, Tampa, not bad. They've gave the guys money that they need, and obviously with Baker, who did great last year, and Mike Evans, who's one of their best receivers just of all time. I like what Tampa's done so far. They're bolstering their team up for another run.
Yeah, I think they're a playoff team again next year. I don't think they win the division because I think Atlanta has more top to bottom than Tampa Bay does. But Tampa Bay is not going to make it easy on anybody. They have a great defense. Their defense is going to keep them in games. Baker Mayfield and Mike Evans is going to be another good connection. Chase Edmonds to be paired with their other running back is going to be a good running back combo. Offensively, that team doesn't scare me. It's the defense that always will scare me in Tampa Bay.
Yeah. And we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens there. But let's go out west and round out our teams here. Teams left in the NFL. We got Arizona Cardinals, who also just not a good year last year. DJ Davis, Keith Ishmael, Tristan Colin, Elijah Wilkinson, Jonah Williams, Justin Jones, Chris Barnes, Mac Wilson, Sean Murphy-Bunting, Aaron Brewer, and Blake Gillikin. Are these needle movers for you, Dustin? Do you think that Arizona maybe takes a step up there in the West, or kind of ho-hum?
I mean, the Justin Jones acquisition is an under-the-radar pickup. This is a guy that's had 8 sacks in the season before. He was off to a good start with the Bears before missing some time with an injury and then never really got back to being 100%. So I kind of do like that signing on the defense. Offensively, you still have Kyler Murray. You have the tight end Trey McBride, I believe his name is.
Yes.
James Conner is your running back, so you're set there. But you lost Hollywood Brown. So ideally, I'm firmly under the belief that Arizona is going to get Marvin Harrison Jr. just because of how that draft is going to unfold. And if you get Marvin Harrison Jr., that's a massive pickup for Kyler Murray. It's just outside of that, they don't have enough pieces yet to make any noise at this point. I think next year they'll be improved, but it'll still be a rough year next year for them.
We will see what happens, my friend. Let's keep it going here. Los Angeles, the Rams, DeMarcus Robinson, Colby Parkinson, Kevin Dotson, Jonah Jackson, Darius Williams. Do you think they keep adding to that team, or do you think they're going to stay put?
They're going to add, but it depends on what they add because they don't have a lot of salary cap space left.
No, yeah.
But I think they're going to be just kind of in a similar spot that they were last year. Sean McVay got arguably his least talented team to the playoffs last year.
Yeah, he made it work, and I mean, shout out Puka Nacua.
One thing this year, Cooper Kupp's going to be healthy when the season starts.
That makes it even more dangerous.
He was not healthy last year, so you saw what Nacua and Cooper Kupp could do together. So both of them are together with that running back that kind of emerged out of nowhere last year. The Rams are going to have a legitimate shot to make a lot more noise this year.
For sure. All right, let's go to the Super Bowl runner-ups in San Francisco. Brandon Allen, Colton McKivitz, Leonard Floyd, Yetur Gross-Matos, Malik Collins, Jordan Elliott, and George Odom. Not a whole lot of big money moves. Leonard Floyd is 2-year, $20 million. That's their big money deal right there. What do you think for San Fran? Obviously, they made it almost to the Super Bowl. Couldn't get it done. Didn't need to do a whole lot, honestly.
Yeah, the Leonard Floyd move is huge just because he's going to provide the pass rush that Chase Young didn't give him last year, which that's going to be huge with Bosa. That's going to be huge for the defense itself. But like you said, they made the Super Bowl last year.
Yeah,
they have They have McCaffrey. They have Purdy. They have Ayuk. They have Kittle. They have Debo. What positions do you really look at that team and say
they don't got a lot of weak spots? Yeah, so they've just been adding to their team. And finally, last team here, rounding out the teams of all 32. Seattle Seahawks. They've picked up Pharaoh Brown, Noah Fant, George Fant, Nick Harris, Leonard Williams to a big year deal, 3 years, $64.5, and finally Rayshon Jenkins. What do you think of Seattle, man? With Geno and company, had a down year last year.
I mean, they're kind of in the same spot the Rams are.
Yeah,
you have DK Metcalf, you have Tyler Lockett, you have Kenneth Walker, you have Noah Fant. That's really your offensive core right there. Geno Smith is in year 2 of the 3-year extension they gave him. He had a little bit of a down year compared to what he had in 2022, but it was still not a terrible season last year, so Geno Smith will be fine. Leonard Williams is going to anchor that defense right next year. You have Witherspoon on the outside. So, I mean, Seattle has pieces. It's just having a first-year head coach. Is that going to be enough to kind of offset what Pete Carroll's done there the last 14 years? And I see him in a similar spot as the Rams, where if they make the playoffs, they're going to get in as a 6 or 7 seed with 9 wins just because they have talent, but they don't have as much depth as some of these other teams.
No doubt, man. No doubt. Well, Dustin, we've done it, my friend. We've went through all the teams. We've looked at all of their moves so far, and it's been fun, man. It's been fun. I know the show's been going on for a while, but it's just been a breeze. But it's been a fun time, man. I appreciate your time. I appreciate your expertise. And as always, guys, check us out on our social media platforms, Facebook, X, TikTok, YouTube, Twitch. Also go look at us on LinkedIn. Also go check out our podcast on all major podcast streaming platforms, audio versions of our shows. For Stat Guy Dustin Reese, I've been your host and producer, Logan Landers. Enjoy your weekends, everyone. Go. Hopefully your team goes and signs some more free agents and we'll talk to y'all again on another live episode.